Hi friends, and welcome to All by Myself. I'm Miss Rachel, and it's so nice to see you. Today's panel is a little different because all three of our authors, Gilly, Segal, Kimberly Jones, and Ryan Sala, are from the same publisher. And that publisher is actually only located about 30 minutes from where our library is. So it's in Naperville, and it's called Sourcebooks. So today's panel is going to be Sourcebooks Shenanigans.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Lewandowski. I work at Sourcebooks, and I have the pleasure of working with all three of our lovely authors today, Kimberly Jones, Gilly Segal, and Ryan Sala. How about I just hand it off to you guys? Who are you? Tell me about your books.
Ooh, who should begin?
Ryan.
Ryan.
Me. Okay, yeah. All right. So, hi everyone. I'm Ryan Sala. I wrote Reverie. I am a Pisces. I live in New York City, and I'm single. My mom would want me to make sure everyone knows that. And Reverie is a young adult fantasy novel. It's about Kane Montgomery, who is a young queer teen who finds himself in a battle with a drag queen sorceress who is trying to use dreams to corrupt the reality of a small suburban town. He's got to figure out how to stop her.
I think it should be a Broadway musical.
And it is in my mind. In my mind. I have all the numbers written out. There's a few ballads.
I think we need to see some of those ballads and hear them.
Yes.
Yeah, right, if you have any choreography ready to share with us today, that would be excellent.
Oh, I'm wearing sweatpants. If I had known that I was going to have to dance, I would have definitely, because I have a matching pair of shorts that goes with this shirt. I could have put on the whole ensemble, done a little bit of a dance. Maybe I will later. Who knows? Stick around, everybody.
Watch Ryan's Instagram feed later on.
Oh yeah, there's no scarcity of footage of me falling out of double pirouettes on my like hardwood floor. So search for a little bit, and you'll find me wiping out somewhere.
Perfection.
Awesome. Well, thank you. How about Kim? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Gilly and you can talk about the book together.
Kim, you can talk for me. I'll be Vanna.
She's Vanna White right now. And you also have a great opportunity besides I'm Not Dying With You Tonight to win a lifetime supply of Rice-A-Roni. I am Kimberly Jones. That is my co-author, Gilly Segal. She's so hot, and she's got a great head of hair. And our book is our book is called I'm Not Dying With You Tonight, and it is about two girls, one black and one white, to survive the night in race riots. As heavy and serious as that sounds, and it is, there is also a great snappy sense of humor and a great tale of friendship in it as well.
Yes.
Gilly?
Love it.
No, you said it all. I had nothing to add.
They said, tell us about yourself.
What about you? What about you, Gilly?
What about you? Tell us about you. You have yes.
I, like Ryan, I'm also a Pisces. And so I spent my Pisces love. Pisces spent our birthdays alone.
Yeah. Deeply. Utterly.
Sad. And I have a 14-year-old son who's so cute, and his name is Drake, and he's very smart, and he's going to a fancy boarding school for high school in the fall. And I get to be his mommy, which is my coolest thing.
Oh, that is cool.
Yes, he's amazing. He's gonna run the world someday, Drake. I'm Gilly. I'm Kim's writing partner.
And spouse.
And I'm not a Pisces, you guys. I used to be a Sagittarius, but then NASA made up a new sign, and now I'm an Ophiuchus, and I won't tell you the way that I pronounce. I'm involved that. So that's my sign. Although it is the Serpent King, and I kind of like that.
That is cool. That's pretty cool.
I'm the chief legal officer agency, and Kim and I are a little punchy. This is the longest amount of time I think we've gone without seeing each other in like 5 years. So this is just who we are.
I'm sure this time apart has been very difficult for you too.
Very difficult.
Very sad, yes.
It's been difficult for me knowing
Reverie,
that you guys are apart.
Oh, thank you. We'll call you and tell you all about it anytime you want to ask.
No, please. That's all right. just know that I'm thinking of you.
I'm going to call you 8 times this evening.
Thoughts and prayers. That was a thoughts and prayers if I ever heard.
Just thoughts, actually, as it turns out.
Okay. Reverie and I'm Not Dying With You Tonight are both debut novels. How did each of you come to writing? Has it been something you've always wanted to do? How did you come to writing YA? Talk a little bit about the books that we have right here, right now.
Ladies, you start.
Gilly.
You want me to go first, Kim?
Yeah.
Okay. So personally, I've been writing since I was a little kid, and I was bored in math class because I really don't like math very much. And so I would be like in math, flipping to the back of my notebook and scribbling stories. And then maybe 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to write seriously for publication. That was also coincidentally the moment when, as an adult, I discovered young adult books, and I discovered how awesome they are, and how, first of all, they're taking on some of the most interesting and important issues in a way that I think the adult lit community is not necessarily, or at least wasn't at the time. And they're just really good. Like, I just really like YA. It's unabashedly about great storytelling. And so I loved it. And that was kind of where I wanted to try my hand at writing. And I'd been writing solo for a while. And I met the manager of an amazing bookstore called Stories in Decatur. And that's where our love story begins. Kim, you want to finish the love story?
Yeah, so she like totally stalked me at the store one day.
I love this story.
And and was like, had like, she's a lawyer by trade, so she had like her bullet points on how she was going to convince me to write this book with her. And she like waited around and was like creeping my staff out a little bit because I was the store manager at the time at Little Shop of Stories. And then she came up to me and she like started doing her whole spiel, and we had our Jerry Maguire moment when I like stopped her, and she thought I was like upset, and I was like, no, you had me at Let's Write Together. And so we're still together. And so we've been writing ever since. But I started I'd like to say that I started as a storyteller as a child because, surprise, surprise, I have ADHD. And so I had a really hard time like focusing in school. And so a lot of times this is how I like compensated for feeling insecure at school, was I became like the class clown. And then later in life, I literally became a clown when I was Pinky the Clown in Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus.
I can't.
So, which was a big old time being in the circus. And my circus is closed now. But so I started just like being the class clown and like telling stories, and then I went to film school, and so I was telling stories in that way, and I still tell stories in that way. I'm an episodic director is my day job, and I direct episodics and LGBTQIA web series, and so that is it.
I love that you were a clown. Well, you are a clown, like a trained clown.
I went to
That
clown
sounds so
college.
incredible. Yeah, I can't believe it. Wow, even clowns get college. Um, that's so good. More educated than I am. So okay, how did I find okay, like these two, I used to tell a lot of stories as a kid. I was like a compulsive liar. And like I say that like with like I'm utterly serious. Like whereas like every time I would go to summer camp or even like be introduced to like a new group of people or like the other kids that were like also at the, resort that my family was at for like a vacation, I would like walk through that door and I'd be a new goddamn person every single time. Like I loved fantasy and like bending the rules of reality so much. Like, and I didn't like to read though. I like to like live in these stories. Like I had my entire summer camp convinced that I had like witchcraft powers, and I would read people's fortunes in exchange for Swedish fish, like
Ooh, it's a
one
good
whole
trait.
year. Yeah, it was
Oh my
great. It was
God.
good. Like, any situation I would walk into, like being like a super overtly gay and like flamboyant person, I was like, all right, how am I gonna like not end up as like at like the bottom of like the social food chain, because my survival was like on the line as a really like effeminate little kid. And so my answer to that was like, I'm just gonna make up the fact that I have like dark powers, or like I'm like a vampire or something like that. And so I would sort of like role play myself into these fantasies, and eventually I started writing them down, and actually designing like characters and stories and worlds for them. And so I sort of took myself out of them, gave life to them in other forms. And when I got into high school, I was reading a lot of the stuff that other young adults were reading, but I sort of stopped because it didn't feel like realistic enough. Like, not that it was fantastical and didn't like that. I was totally fine with the fantasy. I just was reading about like sparkly vampires, and I couldn't understand why they weren't gay, because that seemed really logical to me. And there was like no gay people in the Hunger Games either. And like, so I stopped reading these things, and then eventually Reverie came about when I decided that I was going to write my own young adult book for myself. And I included all the stuff that I would have been interested in. That's how the book got made.
Love it.
Love it.
I love that so much. Well, Ryan, you started to get into it, but I'd love to hear more about like the specific inspiration behind Reverie, and then also the specific inspiration behind I'm Not Dying with You Tonight. Good.
Yeah,
Whoever wants to
absolutely.
go first.
So since I'm already on a roll, Reverie kind of comes out of a longing that I always had to be able to like traverse multiple worlds. And I loved shows that would bring characters like episodically through like, either like planets or dimensions or something like that. And so the sort of the foundational aspect of Reverie is that it's about a group of teens that they have this ability to kind of travel through these worlds that are built off of people's imaginations, and the worlds differ in genre and tone and style, and even the writing sort of shifts depending on the world that they're in. And I really loved the idea of having a core group of people that have to kind of resolve their conflicts and their communications, but while one scene will be a film noir, and like the next, they're going to be in the middle of like a Victorian romance. And like that to me was just like so captivating. If anyone's ever read, or actually, sorry, if anyone's ever played the game Kingdom Hearts, like I loved that style. I was so inspired by the idea that you could kind of go through these other worlds, kind of partake in other people's adventures and learn something from it, help it sort of resolve, but then move on for like a larger meta story. That's how Reverie's kind of got its structure.
So I'm Not Dying with You Tonight is inspired by real events. In 2015, in the wake of the murder of Freddie Gray by police, the city of Baltimore, protests started occurring around the city of Baltimore. And some of those protests began in and around a high school. And there was one particular event where the students were calling to protest, and the authorities got wind of the fact that they were going to protest, and they made a couple of really stupid decisions and decided that first they were going to try to stamp this out by closing schools early and sending the students home. And the second thing they did was then close down public transportation in the area. So now you have this group of students who has been told to disperse and has no way to get there. And there was a brief little news clip about a school bus that got trapped behind a police barricade in that moment. And then the news moved on, because the news likes to center the salaciousness and instead of asking what's happening really with the people in the community. But Kim and I are both moms of kids not all that much younger than the kids on that high school bus, and we got really stuck on those kids, going, what would have happened to them, and how did they get home, and are they safe? And even if they are safe, it has to have been a transformative moment for them to experience that. And so I sent the news clip over to Kim, and it's, we decided to tell the story in dual voices and dual perspectives, so we could follow both of these girls, one who is African American and grew up in the neighborhood and has lived there her whole life, and the other who is a white student who has just recently transferred into the neighborhood and doesn't know it or understand the neighborhood, and frankly hasn't really tried to, and follow their journey to see if they make it safely home that night.
Yeah. And so in writing this book, besides just like having two different authors that are writing the perspective, we had specific reasons why we wanted these girls to have particular experiences that would influence, how they handled each other in the night. Like one of the things that is like my favorite tidbit about like Lena is that there is a reason why I had her raised by her grandfather as opposed to like her two parents, is because a grandfather who's around 70 years old would have been an African American man who survived Jim Crow South. So he would have had very, very specific experiences that would have influenced the information he transferred to her. About interacting with people of other cultures, and truthfully, they probably would not have been positive. He probably would have trained her to be mistrusting of people who are not Black. And so having Lena have to start the night, as a 17-year-old child, when you're still much of what you think is embedded in you by your parents, having her start with this disdain for Campbell at the beginning of the night, I think gave her a place to grow. And with Campbell, we wanted to make sure that this is someone who was like a complete fish out of water, that even though she's lived in this neighborhood, she's never explored this neighborhood. She has never ventured out. So having to survive the night in a neighborhood that, although she's, lived there for just a few months, she's still new to the neighborhood. She would be completely lost without a native to assist her, and she'd have to develop an understanding of the community that night because she wouldn't have done any work to understand it prior to that night.
Wow, that's really incredible. Thank you all for sharing that. And kind of like, it seemed like we were getting into this a little bit, but I'm really interested in like the degree to which your books are rooted in reality or not, and how that affected writing the books. So like, Ryan, what was it like for you to blend reality and imagination and dreams like into the literal plot of Reverie? And for Kim and Gilly, what was it like to take a very real situation and fit the story of these two girls within it?
Yeah, so I can start on this. I've always believed that like escapism gets a bad rap because people refer to escapism as like a means of, taking yourself out of reality and the circumstances around it. And while it is that, like, there's so much that reveals itself in the inversion of what a dream is, right? Like what a dream sort of fills in for the person that's dreaming it often tells you a ton about what's lacking in their reality, because it's usually a reflection of that. And so while Reverie is a book that deals very heavily in dreams and dreamt logic and sort of the subconscious, all of the reveries themselves, all of the worlds that the characters traverse are, they're sort of like complements to the reality that person's living in, and oftentimes they're necessitated by an unkind reality. They're sort of a refuge or respite from an unkind reality. And that, that was how I treated escapism when I was a kid too. I think there's something to be learned from that, and I think a lot of people kind of grow up in their own dreams, and the people that kind of become powerful with this background are the ones that understand how to then externalize their dreams and their imaginings of what the world could be into the actual reality around them. Some people never get to that point. Some people sort of shelter themselves in place inside of their dreams, and that's completely valid too. I mean, it's not up to you to change the world, but for the characters in Reverie, and specifically for Kane Montgomery, who's the main character, it is up to him. He is the one that kind of has to figure out the equation of, all right, I understand my inner desires and my dreams. How am I going to externalize that? How am I going to affect a world around me to kind of bring that to the front of like my effort or my adventure?
Yeah, it's funny because people always assume that like, that Lena is most closely to my heart and that, like Campbell is more closely to Gilly's heart, but I actually share more personality wise, I may be more like Lena, but like I actually share more of the qualities of Campbell than I do Lena, and Gilly definitely shares more qualities of Lena than I do if you like really, spend a lot of time with us and get to know us. So that part has always been interesting. And although initially we both took responsibility for our characters' voices, me with Lena and Gilly with Campbell, over time we had no choice but to write within each other's chapters, just for consistency and voice, and things like that. And so a lot of times, we would autocorrect each other on the character we weren't writing.
Yeah.
And so that's the most interesting part. But it's it's been almost 2 years, so I'm finally at the place where I can like tell this story without getting like all misty and crying. But it's interesting because although our story takes place smack dab in the middle of a riot, that riot is the result of police brutality and injustice in that way. And when we were editing, I was a victim of police brutality, and I had to come back and do massive edits after I had been physically abused and thrown in jail for 3 days without warrant. I was thrown in jail, and they knew that the reason they threw me in jail was not okay. So in order to cover their own tracks while they were trying to figure out what they were going to say they were processing me for, they didn't process me. So Gilly and other friends were like looking for me and like trying to figure out where I was, and I wasn't in the system. And not only was I not in the system, I was being held in a men's holding cell. And so and I suffered some PTSD behind that, and I had to like process my PTSD while editing I'm Not Dying With You Tonight, and it actually affected the novel. Originally in the book, there was a scene where the girls run across police officers that assist them in the middle of the melee, and I literally had a break at Gilly's kitchen table one morning and just started screaming, I don't want to write a nice police officer right now. And so we revamped an entire chapter because of that. And so I definitely think the reality of that situation, had a huge effect on the book.
Yeah. I mean, there are a number of events that take place in the book that are either inspired by real events or that occurred afterwards. There's both a riot in the book and there's also a shooting at a high school during a football game. We visited multiple schools during the fall when we were touring to promote the book, that students came up to us during our presentations and said, did you base this on the event that happened here at our school?
Wow.
So I wish the book was not based in reality, but unfortunately it is. And it's interesting when we've been working on this book in some way, shape, or form for close to 5 years now. And originally people would sort of ask the question, do you think this is still going to be timely when it comes out? I wish it wouldn't, but here we are.
Even this week, it's still proven to be unfortunately timely.
Yeah.
Both books are definitely concerned with subverting tropes and stereotypes and like using character archetypes in new and interesting ways. I'd love to hear from each of you like how like what your focus was and how like readers have responded in that regard.
Y'all go first.
I'll go first this time if you want me to, Ryan. We keep
your book's been out longer. You tell
them. Character archetypes. Yeah, I mean, so a lot of our book is, even within the book, we like to say it's as much about perception as it is about anything else. And the perception these two characters have of one another is a stereotypical perception when they start the story together. And it's by being forced to work together to survive the night and get home safely, or not get home safely and survive the night, that they begin to understand a little bit more about each other. I mean, certainly Campbell, the white character, has a horribly stereotypical perspective on the neighborhood that she's just moved into and hasn't bothered to attempt to subvert the stereotypes in her own view and her own understanding. And hopefully that's the journey she starts in this book. One thing that Kim and I were really conscious of is the whole book takes place over the course of about 4 hours. It's really a snapshot of a moment in time. And we didn't want it to feel like a kumbaya ending, you know, with sleepovers and hair braiding and you know, that's change doesn't really happen that way. So I think they start a journey during this book, and hopefully you can see the direction the journey is going to take, but they don't necessarily complete that journey because that wouldn't be a realistic or authentic for a 4-hour event.
Yeah. And one of the things specifically for Lena that I wanted to make sure is that, you know, anybody who's ever heard us speak before know that we have a moniker that, you know, hood girls can be heroes too. And I think that a lot of times what has happened, specifically in the own voices category for African American girls, is that we decided that there is a right Black girl and there's a wrong Black girl, and that that girls who kind of grew up in a more financially marginalized situation are not the girl that we want to hear. The conversation was, well, we've heard enough about that Black girl. We want to hear about other Black girls. And I'm, of course, 100% on board with expanding the canon because that's definitely something that needs to happen. But I don't think you have to delete something from the canon to expand it. I don't think that's authentic expansion to say, okay, so now we have an idea of what the right Black girl is. And so we're going to expand the canon with that. And we are going to go back and backspace on this other Black girl that we've heard about. And I think the issue with tales of hood girls, ghetto girls, whatever you want to call them, is that there have not been nuanced versions of their stories. And I don't think that you want to delete that, also because there are still girls growing up in those communities who need to see themselves as heroes, who need to see themselves reflected on the page. And so I'm hoping that, because I consider myself one of those girls, I'm just one of those girls who got out, if you will, because I grew up on the south side of Chicago, which is, that reputation is infamous of itself. I definitely think it's important for me to reach back and elevate those voices in a way that are nuanced, because Lena is the hero of her own story, and she's smart and savvy, and the lived experience and having grown up in the hood is what helps her to be more equipped at 17 years old to survive this night.
Yeah, and she's awesome. I love her. I mean, they're both great in their own ways, but like,
She's awesome.
I do love that a lot.
She survives the night in gladiator sandals.
Yes, she does. Oh God, I know. Like, not to trivialize any of the stuff that they go through, but the fact that she's like still wearing those gladiator sandals, like,
all the way home. It's so funny. We love talking about that actually, because it's like a pivotal moment in the story is they end up bonding over shoes, right? Like, it's one of the few moments when they find common ground. And a writer friend of ours who had sort of read an early draft of it is the one who sort of asked the question, like, what shoes are they wearing? And also, Rachel, you're probably going to have to edit this out, but as an aside, when they were thinking about what the paperback cover was going to be like, they did a full body illustration of the girls. And the one comment that we had was, Lena's sandals are wrong.
Like, those aren't gladiator sandals.
Oh, I love that. Well, no, because I think it's so important. I mean, like, as a reader, like, I love those like small details, and also, like, not to like read too heavily into this, and this sort of feeds into my answer about Reverie, but like, I love the idea that like someone does not have to give up like their eccentricities or their femininity and sort of fit in the idea of like what we expect a hero to look like or to sort of act like, right? Like, Lena does not at any point like relegate herself to like she doesn't take herself out of a heroic position because she doesn't, you know, feel like she fits there, but she also, like, you know, when she does act heroic, like, it's not like she's suddenly in armor or has to like subjugate any part of herself in order to be a hero. And I love that about her. I think that's a great thing.
Lena's strength is her smarts and her knowledge and her understanding and her determination and her love for people, right? Like, there's a lot of characters in the book that Lena loves really fiercely, and she survives because she's determined to get to those people.
Yeah, and she has a passion for fashion. That's her thing. Yeah. Like, and this is not giving away much. This is very early on in the book, but this is one of my favorite scenes. It's like there's the first riot is beginning and there's all this chaos, and she's focused on the fact that the drink has been spilled on her blouse. And she's like, this entire night is ruining my outfit.
Yep.
I love that. I also think like, being able to give like, I think personally, like, that sounds like a friend of mine, right? Like someone that has like the complexity and the depth enough to like, they understand like what they look like, but they also understand like what the currency of fashion is, and like how operating as like a teenager, oftentimes like you have points if you look a certain way, and like that sometimes is what you have to hold on to, like in terms of personal power, right? Like that's not nothing.
Yeah.
That's still not nothing. I'm 29 and that's still a thing that like I think about too. So
yeah.
I really love that, the currency of fashion. That's fabulous.
That's a delicious
fashion. It really is.
Fashion can change the world. So I firmly believe that. Speaking of like archetypes and stuff, I know we've been talking about this for a little, so I'll give like my brief answer, which is that Kane as a young queer person is really trying to figure out like where they fit in, and they are being stereotyped at the beginning of the novel because the novel starts with this horrible accident. It actually starts after this horrible accident, and Kane is being blamed. He's sort of found to be at the center of this building that burned down, and his car is at the crash scene, and he does not know why. He has no memory of the situation, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And this sort of is what leads him into this sort of fantastical adventure. But at the start of the novel, it's because he's actually trying to escape this association the police keep sort of foisting on him, which is that he's this kind of like angsty, suicidal, loner gay teen. And the fact of the matter is that Kane from the outside is alone, and he is gay, and these are all things that like you could perceive about him, but like he's also extremely comfortable being by himself. He does not resent other people. He just wants to be left alone and to like read and play video games, and but he can tell that like the ingredients that people see that make him up are turning into a story that other people are telling about him that he can't control. And a lot of the book is him finding the willpower to combat that and to sort of prove reality wrong in terms of how he's being, stereotyped. And even within the reveries, because reveries are these massive like magical worlds, when the characters go into them, they're given roles to play that already exist in those worlds, and oftentimes the characters have to figure out a way to maneuver in, like a royal court or something like that, even if there's somebody that doesn't have any power in that court, or has to, fighting in a wedding dress, for instance, is something that comes up like time and time again. Like if you're cast as like the bride or the damsel in an adventure, but you're the strongest person on the field, like, are you going to let reality tell you that you can't fight, or are you just going to like hitch up your skirt and like brawl with the monsters? And you have to read the book to find out what happens, but that's a kind of constant thing or tension between the characters. Oh my god, we have a dog!
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was done answering anyways. It's not a dog.
He will be joining the rest of this interview whether I want it or not.
Yay! I want it.
All of our videos, like we try to shoot promo videos and stuff at Gilly's house, and then you just see like a tail.
Yeah, just like if my camera's bouncing, it's because he's breathing. He's just crazy. Anyway, but Ryan, you said something that I really, really loved about figuring out, like, navigating any given situation. And there's something in Reverie, it happens in a wonderful setting and in a wondrous setting, right? But it's profoundly true of us on a daily basis, and especially of kids and teens, that any given situation that they walk into, they are figuring out, who are they in this situation? Who do they have interactions with, relationships? What are they? Are they more powerful in the social hierarchy? Are they less powerful? Is there an adult in charge of them? It's like profoundly true that we spend an enormous amount of time and emotional energy figuring that out. And I love the way that Reverie puts that into a magical context.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love it. So now I have some fun questions to get into the shenanigans portion of the panel. To start, who would you cast in a film or TV or musical adaptation of your book?
Myself as every single role. I would love to do a one-man show of Reverie. I would love to play Kane. Everyone thinks that I'm Kane. Everyone's like, oh, you like wrote your own, version of like, it's like a self-insert fantasy. Not realizing that like the person that I am most similar to in Reverie is the drag queen sorceress. That like is like the villain of the book. Like Posey is the person that I like. That's who I would probably do a very good job as. And I'm like the right like age and everything. So yeah, no, I'm gonna say myself. Every single role as me.
I love it. Ryan LaSala starring Ryan LaSala.
Directed by.
Written by Ryan LaSala.
I don't have an answer. I think I would want unknown actresses to play Lena and Campbell.
Yeah, I would say I have no idea who. Yeah, I have no idea who I would want to play Lena and Campbell. I think they just have to discover some new talent. But I have my heart set on Kofi to play Marcus. Because when Gilly and I were at the NAACP Image Awards, we met him like in the lobby. If you're not familiar with Kofi, go look him up. He is the most beautiful man in America, and he has a lead role on the show that's on the Oprah Winfrey Network called Queen Sugar, where he plays a sugarcane farmer, and he is so delicious. I'm sorry, I hope he never sees this, but
I'm gonna add him with it on Twitter.
Yeah.
He is so gorgeous, and so Gilly and I were like hanging out with him in the lobby at the NAACP Awards after we had lost and he had lost, and he like took photos of us, and he was like, "Come on, let's take the big loser photo," and we were just like swooning and melting all over him, and I was like, "Oh my God, he's Marcus! He's like totally Marcus."
I vote for that.
Ryan, I'll DM you photos of him later.
I was about to say, like, I'm gonna look at this later. I didn't want to do it while we're talking.
Taking notes to investigate further. Excellent.
Some follow-up after the meeting.
Follow-up to do.
Yeah.
Action items. Who are 3 fictional characters you would want on your team for the zombie apocalypse, which you never know could be coming any day now?
Lena, like, would be great on that. Let's see, other characters that I think would be incredible. Sailor Jupiter, she's real tough. She's like sturdy as hell. She can cook. Incredible person. And then I feel like I would want like a Pokemon. I want like a powerful Pokemon, maybe like Charizard.
Ooh,
that's pretty epic.
That seems like a good team.
That is a really good team.
It is a good team. I'm gonna add a Katniss Everdeen because she's pretty
smart, yeah.
Cute. She can find food in the wild. Mm-hmm. I'm going with Katniss Everdeen. Who's got a really great set of wheels? Like you need a vehicle in the apocalypse.
Well, a
what
tank.
About a tank would be good.
Tank girl. Oh, is this a multimedia experience? Tank girl.
I could choose Lena and Charizard. I think you could have Tank Girl as well.
I'm having Katniss. I'm having Tank Girl. And someone who can sing. Because
sing?
Yeah, you need some entertainment. Have you lived through that? This is bad enough. If we all actually have to be outside in this apocalypse, I want someone who can entertain us while we're driving endless
Shakira.
To our
great
city.
Abs, and she can sing.
Yes. And I bet she could fight.
I'm sure she can fight.
Yeah. I bet she can fight.
Incredible hair as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely taking the Darkling because I feel
smart.
Yeah. I am taking the Darkling with me because I know he can like figure out a strategic plan for us that is going to be like epic and amazing. So besides the Darkling, I am also going to take I need some form of lichen for the battlefield. I'll take any lichen from any story. I just need a lichen.
Okay. All right. A wolf person.
Yes, I'm gonna take a Darkling, the Darkling, a lichen, and I'm also going to take. Man, this is hard.
It's hard.
I like when you said I'll take a Darkling.
I'm gonna take a page. I'm gonna take a page from Ryan's book and give myself a Pokemon.
Yes, they're good.
Yeah,
they're effective.
Yeah,
just like I spent most of middle school doing that. I could do it in real life.
I think I'm gonna switch from Charizard to Pikachu because now I'm thinking I want like an electric Pokemon that can produce its own electricity and can like charge things. I think that would actually be very wise of me.
That's using the old noggin.
This is it.
Okay, so confession time. How much time have you guys spent thinking about your apocalypse survival team in real life?
A lot. especially
a lot. I think I would be very good. I think I would be sought after on an apocalypse team.
So I have a thing. You have to bring a skill. Like to join my caravan, you have to, what skill are you bringing to this caravan?
What don't I bring? I look great in a tank top. I know how to sew. I can bedazzle even hard plastics. I know how to roller skate.
Oh.
These are skills.
Okay.
These are all skills.
Okay.
I'm nimble. I can fit through small spaces. And I am a great debater.
Okay.
And he's entertaining. You said you need entertainment. He's a master entertainer.
Okay. All right, Kim, if this were a zombie apocalypse survival crew, what would you bring, Kim?
Well, I spent, until I was 10 years old, I lived on a farm, so I know how to farm.
Okay.
I also am a retired prize fighter, so I could punch people out. And then I am also very, very scary when I want to be. So I keep people in line.
Spook the zombies. Gilly, what are you gonna bring? The law.
I'm like, dear zombies, what you don't want is to come over here with that.
That was great. I'm shaking in my boots.
Good.
Cannot believe how scary that was. Gilly, what would you bring?
Well, I am former military, so I can shoot.
Oh.
I can set up a perimeter. I could drive the armored personnel carrier that we steal off of a military base in Georgia.
You sure can, because you referred to it as armored personnel carrier.
So we're gonna be. Yes. I bring military leadership to this.
Okay, so I am the least qualified. You were right. You were right about that.
When I said confession, how much time? It's because confession, I spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah, no, clearly. I underestimated you, and I'm sorry about that.
And we miss you so much.
Look, I think I'd be fine. I'd be the person in The Walking Dead who has like a samurai sword. I'd be like the cosplayer in the afterlife. Like I'd be her.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I also think you are like, although people don't realize this, you are also a person who like knows when it's time to be like serious and when it's time to relax. And I think you would like keep that in place. Like, okay, we're having a good time, but like, guys, I see a swarm of killer, bees coming this way. We should probably.
Yeah. Well, plus you have to maintain your humanity, right? Like you have to. What's the point of surviving if we're going to lose, art and creativity? So
yeah,
that's my argument. I will create like watercolor, like calligraphy doodle paintings. That's what I will do. Yeah.
Or I feel like you would see a zombie army approaching, and you would, I don't know, find a way to like lead them all in song, like turn them into a choir and teach them some choreography until they just like forget what they were trying to accomplish in the first place.
I think so too. I'd be like instead of the Pied Piper, I'd be the Dyed Piper because they're all.
Oh, but
So pick me. Don't go with the former military training.
I would watch this show.
I'm gonna say it would be a very short season.
The show is 4 episodes.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now for fun?
Ooh, I'm actually, I have it right here. I'm reading Surrender Your Sons by Adam Sass. It comes out, does it say September 15th? And I would not call, it's good. I would not call this like a fun read because it's actually very serious. It's about these teens that get kidnapped and taken to like a conversion therapy camp and have to basically dissemble it from like the inside out in order to escape it. And so it's a thriller and like sort of like a horror aspect too, but also like a mystery, and it's very intense. But it's like it's wonderful. I just like, I'm not reading it being like I'm having so much fun. Like I'm reading it like every muscle's activated.
Yes. I have the new Terry McMillan on my shelf that I plan on getting to at some point. But the interesting thing is like, because we have been quarantined, all of my writer friends have been sending me books that they're working on. So I am like doing sensitivity reads and beta reading on like 10 million books. Even right now I'm beta reading a graphic novel that is like by Vanya Stoyanova, that is Spice Girls in Space. Yeah, and so and so I've been doing just like tons of beta reading. Some I can talk about and some I can't. I'm reading the new David Arnold that he just sold for him. So yeah, I'm reading all of that stuff. But once I get through like all of my like committed reading that I have to do, then I'm gonna read the new Terry McMillan book.
Cool.
I'm reading this. It's called The Summer of Impossibilities by Rachel Allen.
I love Rachel Allen.
She's amazing, and this book is amazing. It comes out Tuesday. It actually just got a starred review from School Library Journal. So yay! It's the story of 4 girls whose moms were friends when they were in college, and they end up at this lake house over the summer, and the moms are kind of a mess, and the girls are kind of a mess, and it's delicious.
That sounds like a TV series waiting to happen.
Like
moms, messy. Girls, messier.
Yeah, messier on a lake for the summer. I mean,
right.
Lake messy.
On this.
Yeah, Netflix, make that a movie ASAP.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
And they can run it on Lifetime right after the Ryan LaSala movie starring Ryan LaSala.
Yeah.
As Ryan LaSala.
As Ryan
LaSala playing himself in Ryan LaSala, the musical, the series.
The musical based on the one-man show.
Yeah. I do a lot of musical stuff. I actually would love to somehow find my way back onto like a stage or something like that. I used to love being a musical star.
I am not even joking where I was saying I could totally see a musical adaptation of Reverie. It could be very interesting. There was this amazing musical in the 90s that was like, I will admit, a total flop on Broadway, but it's still one of my favorite shows, called Starmites. And it was like an intergalactic story of kids from a comic book world and a girl who was like reading comics and she fell into the comic book. And it was like, I like was like 12 and I like sat in, my mom took us on a trip to New York and I watched that and I was like, my mind was blown.
I love that. And I actually love the comparison of Reverie to musicals, in part because like, what I always like, I love taking musicals as if like they're literally happening. Like the idea that like somewhere there's a street and one person is overtaken by an emotion to the point that they start singing about it, and everyone within their orbit is sort of dragged into like choreography that they suddenly know and harmonies that they suddenly know, and everyone knows their role and their position, and then it just disperses. And that's actually like in Reverie, like that's how the Reveries work. Like one person is sort of like brought into this fantasy and everyone around them is sort of recruited into this like fantastical moment, and then it comes to a conclusion and people kind of go on their merry way. But I love I totally think that Reverie would be a great musical.
I feel like there's such a great opportunity in it with like each of the different Reveries to work in like different musical styles and everything. Yes. Like Les Mis, Heathers, Cabaret, like whatever, like just like a million different aesthetics and vibes all over the place. I love it.
Stephen Sondheim, if you're watching this, I'm available. I'm in Washington Heights. I'm home. So come on over.
DM him.
Yeah,
I'll DM.
I mean, listen, if we could get Trolls 2 made into a movie, there's no reason why Reverie cannot get made into a musical.
Oh, you're right.
Just saying.
Last official question. What are each of you working on next in the book world? To clarify, we've heard all about Ryan's various crafts.
Yeah.
Well, we just turned in a round of edits on our second co-authored book together. Which is announced, but the title is not announced yet, so I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Oh no, I'm getting the Zip It side. So our second co-authored book, which that's it.
Scarce on the details. Will you tell me about this? Will you DM me information later?
No.
We've publicly talked about it with permission of the bosses before, so we can tell you like what the premise is.
Tell us.
Yeah. So the premise is it is on the same brand as we have done before, and it is 2 girls, 1 black and 1 white, and it is also told in alternating voices, and it is about 2 girls who take a knee at their high school football game on a Friday night and the fallout from it.
Ooh, I love this. I cannot wait for this.
Yeah, it's fun. It's different. The
girls are very different.
Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Ryan, what are you working on?
Okay, so I just I should be getting, I guess I just finished this, so I don't know if it's what I'm currently working on, but soon I will have arcs out in the world of my second book, which is unrelated to Reverie, but it is I don't know when this is posted, so I don't know how much I can say, but I'll give you like a very, very vague pitch, but basically it's about two ex-boyfriends who have this like broken relationship, and they have to figure out how to get along because they get matched up together in a competitive arts and crafts competition, and both of them have a lot riding on the competition. So it's like, this is also why I'm making a lot of arts and crafts right now, because it's literally about like people who like make things for fun, for a living, and yeah, I'm very excited about it.
It sounds like the song of your heart.
I mean, it is. It very much is. When I told my editor about it, like, she was like, "This is like autobiographical, basically." Kinda. Yeah, I was like, "So what?" So it was great. It was awesome to write, and I'm very excited. No one's read it yet, so I'm very excited for other people to see it. You read it?
I know. I'm like, Lizzie, go ahead and put my name down for an arc.
Yeah, I'll take it.
When the final manuscript came in, Annie may or may not have sent it to me. So yeah. I do have it in my.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Well, I'm excited. Yeah, I haven't talked about it a lot because, yeah, it's like a secret, so I don't want to say too much, but.
And I need 2 copies of the arc because I like to keep one of my Ryan books intact. See, like, I have one that's like still in the.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! I love that in the original
one
packaging.
That was for reading and one that was for keeping.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
A collector's item.
That is my collector's edition. Wait, before we do our official sign off, Lizzie, can I ask everybody one question?
Yeah.
I'm super nervous right now.
It's a very silly like question. I just want to know, of all the because I know everyone has watched far more television than they should. Of all the things that you have binged during quarantine, what has been the one thing that stood out to you? Lizzie.
My 13-year-old daughter and I, Noam and I, are watching Outer Banks.
Oh, I love Outer Banks.
Yeah, we're really into it. It's like so into it that we are co-authoring Pope fanfic now.
Respect.
What? Pope needs a mom girlfriend. Like, they need a mom friend, first of all, because these kids, even Noam is like, they get into so much trouble.
Right, and so they don't have the right connections to make that work.
I have not been, so I'm not a huge TV person. If I am watching something, what?
I don't know what that's like.
Oh yeah.
I will consume anything, like books, TV, podcasts, movies, like put it in front of me and I will eat it up.
I will watch TV, not to get me wrong. I just, like, I feel like I never know what people are watching. I did watch like Tiger King, that was fun. But I've been watching my like thing that I've been indulging is I've been playing a lot more video games. So that's like been my quarantine task, and this kind of goes back to like I don't like to kind of passively observe, but like I sort of like to play in the worlds that I'm in. So I love video games, and I've been playing Persona 5 recently because a lot of my reviews and like readers have told me like, oh, like you would love this game, and it turns out like, well, I do love anime, so the game is like completely like in the style of anime, but also like the plot line is Reverie. Like it's very closely like related to Reverie. It's about like traveling into like these palaces that are formed from people's subconscious desires to like steal like the thing that makes their heart it's like it feels like I made it up, and so I've sort of like I'm playing a version of my book right now, and it's like very it was very uncomfortable because you always have that like moment of like, oh my god, like someone else took this from me.
But, get out of my head.
Yeah, it feels like invasive in that way, but it's also like extremely fun. So I've been having fun with that.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I have been. I like watched in an amount of time that I'm embarrassed to admit to the new Ryan Murphy series that's on Netflix, Hollywood. I absolutely love it. I know it's getting like mixed reviews, but I think it's getting mixed reviews because people aren't listening to what Ryan is saying he was attempting to do, which is he wanted to do a reimagining of what Hollywood could have looked like if people had taken some of the risks that they needed to take sooner. Like what could Hollywood have accomplished if we had had a gay couple sitting in the front row in like 1956 Oscars? And what would Hollywood look like if even just one studio took a leap and put a person of color as the lead in a movie? And so he is telling this story set in like 1950s Hollywood, and it is grimy and seedy and crazy, but it's also like, what if there were more risk takers at that time? Like, how much further would we be? So I am obsessed with it.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. I like this is not giving anything away, but my favorite scene is when they use some real people who had like real struggles, and then like give them the life that they wish that person could have had. So like my favorite scene is like they have a scene where Rock Hudson takes his boyfriend to the Oscars and like walks the red carpet holding his boyfriend's hand, and I just like
that's so
was a
nice.
puddle of a mess.
I watched the first episode of Hollywood, I think last night, and I was like, that's interesting, but I don't know if I'm gonna keep watching, but you just convinced me to like give it another shot and keep going with it.
Where do you watch it?
Netflix.
Okay.
So Lizzie, what has your obsession been?
Oh, me. So this isn't a show, but the movie The Half of It, which is on Netflix, which I feel, to me, it felt like Queer Ladybird, but instead of being about like the mother-daughter relationships, it's about like a pivotal friendship in this girl's life. It was just like so delightful and like, I don't know, like swoony teen vibes, but also like the longing, and it was exactly like what my little bisexual heart needed. So
Nice.
I don't know, watch it. It's beautiful. I cried at the end. Good shit.
I plan on that. Yeah, that looks great. I want to watch that.
Yeah.
Rachel, what about you?
I've rewatched Parks and Rec and Buffy, and I have not watched anything new.
Oh, that's fun though.
But you can never go wrong with some Buffy. So
Buffy. I've
been still. Every time I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch this episode, I'm like, oh, I can just skip it. I don't have to watch it this time because I already know what happens in it. Mm-hmm. So that's great. It's better on the rewatch because I can skip the questionable episodes.
I've been rewatching Charmed, which the first season does not hold up, y'all, just in terms of like production quality and acting. I tried to get my daughter to watch that too, and she was like, Mom, no. But it's very much like that experience, which is like, oh, it's just playing in the background while I'm doing something else, and I'm not like, wait, what happened? And I'm like, oh, I generally know what's going to happen. So
that's my version of this is Inuyasha, which is like an old anime from forever ago that like every episode is spent. 1/3 of every episode is spent recapping what happened in the last episode, and the final third of the episode is just talking about what's going to happen in the next episode. So there's only like about 7 minutes of like new stuff.
That's about my attention span right now. So that sounds
it's great. It's what I have on when I'm like crafting, because like I can like listen to it, and I never need to look at the screen. I'm just like sewing in the background.
Thank you all so much for your time. And once again, like, just take us. I'm not good at this. Clearly, it's the end of the day for me. I don't know, Rachel. Can you work with this, or I'm so tired.
Just say thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thanks